If you've flown recently, you've probably seen the dreaded carry-on sizers sitting next to the boarding gate. And maybe you've watched a fellow traveler try to wedge their bag in, only to be told they need to check it and pay a fee. What's worse, sometimes the bag looks completely reasonable. Carry-on rules seem simple until they're not. Different airlines have different size limits, some change policies without warning, and others enforce rules only when it suits them. For senior travelers who value ease and predictability, these inconsistencies can cause unnecessary stress and unexpected costs. So today, we're pulling back the curtain on what the carry-on rules actually mean, what airlines don't tell you, and the real strategies that smart travelers use to fly without hassle or extra fees. Let's get started. There's no universal carry-on size rule. The biggest myth out there is that there's one standard carry-on size that works across all airlines. The truth is, carry-on dimensions vary from airline to airline, sometimes dramatically. What fits perfectly on Delta or United might be rejected by Spirit or Frontier. Most major U.S. airlines allow a carry-on bag that's 22 inches high, 14 inches wide, and 9 inches deep. But others shrink those numbers down to 21 or even 20 inches in height. And those tiny variations make a big difference when you're standing at the gate and they ask you to test it in the sizer. Always check your specific airline's policy before packing. Don't trust general travel blogs or store labels that claim carry-on approved. Many bags advertised that way are still too big for budget airlines or international carriers. It's not just size, it's shape and rigidity that matter. Even if your carry-on is technically within the allowed dimensions, the structure of your bag can make or break your boarding experience. Hard-shell suitcases that don't compress, even by a single inch, are far more likely to be flagged if they don't slide into the sizer perfectly. On the other hand, soft-sided bags or duffels that can squish slightly may still pass, even if they're a bit over. Airlines often allow a bit of forgiveness when bags are flexible or can be nudged to fit, especially if they're not packed to the brim. So what works best? A lightweight, soft-sided roller bag or a compressible backpack tends to pass under the radar more often than bulky hard shells. And if your bag has outer pockets, be careful. Stuffing them full can push you over the limit, even if the main compartment is within bounds. Personal item rules are just as important and just as confusing. Most airlines allow one carry-on and one personal item, but what exactly counts as a personal item? According to most carriers, a personal item must fit under the seat in front of you. That means purses, small backpacks, briefcases, or laptop bags. But some people bring oversized totes, gym bags, or even mini suitcases and try to pass them off as personal items. And sometimes they get away with it. Others aren't so lucky. Gate agents are more likely to check or charge you if you clearly have two similar-sized bags, like a roller and a large duffel, especially on fuller flights. To avoid surprises, pick a personal item that's clearly smaller than your carry-on. Backpacks and crossbody bags are usually safe bets. The gate is where rules suddenly get enforced. Here's something no one tells you. Most airline staff don't care about your carry-on size until the gate. That's why you can walk through check-in and security without issue, only to be stopped right before boarding. Why? Because once you're at the gate, they can assess how full the flight is and how much overhead bin space remains. If it's tight, they'll start enforcing bag sizes much more strictly, sometimes to the letter. That's why travelers get frustrated. They used the same bag last week with no problem, but now they're being told it's too big. It's not about the bag, it's about the plane load. Pro tip: board early if you want to avoid problems. Late boarding groups are more likely to have their bags scrutinized or gate checked. Airlines profit from enforcing carry-on rules. Let's be honest, carry-on enforcement isn't just about space. It's also about revenue. Airlines make billions of dollars each year from baggage fees, and gate checking a carry-on can cost $35 to $60 or more. Budget carriers like Spirit, Frontier, and Allegiant have made this part of their business model. They advertise rock-bottom fares, but make up the difference with add-ons, including fees for both carry-ons and checked bags. That means the more bags they force you to check, the more money they make. That's also why they measure bags aggressively, and why some agents seem extra eager to test the size of your carry-on. Understanding this helps you make smarter choices and not take it personally when you're asked to pay. International flights have stricter standards. If you're flying internationally, especially on non-US airlines, be prepared for even tighter size and weight limits. Many European and Asian carriers not only limit the dimensions of carry-ons, but also impose strict weight limits, often as low as 7 kilograms or 15 pounds. Even if your bag fits, if it's too heavy, you may be forced to check it. And yes, they weigh them at the gate. To avoid issues, use a lightweight suitcase and pack only what you truly need in your carry-on. If you're carrying medication, electronics, or valuables, keep them in a small personal item that you can always bring on board. Overhead bins are first come, first served. Just because you brought a carry-on doesn't mean you'll find space for it. Overhead bin space is limited, and if you board later, especially in group 5 or higher, there's a good chance bins will already be full. When that happens, flight attendants may ask you to check your bag to your final destination. It might be free, but if your bag has fragile items, medications, or anything time-sensitive, that's not ideal. To guarantee space, check in online as early as possible, set a phone alarm for your boarding time, and try to be among the first in your group to board. Bag sizers are designed to be tighter than reality. You've probably seen someone struggling to fit a bag into the sizer, kneeling, twisting, pushing, and wondered why it's so difficult. Here's a little-known fact. The sizers are intentionally tight. In many cases, they're slightly smaller than the actual space in the overhead bin. Airlines use this as a filter. If your bag can slide into the sizer easily, they know it'll definitely fit in the bin. If it doesn't, they may still allow it on board, but only if space allows. That means you shouldn't panic if your bag doesn't fit perfectly into the sizer. Often, the actual plane has more flexibility. But it's still best not to push your luck. Backpack versus rolling bag. One actually works better. For many senior travelers, the choice between a backpack and a rolling carry-on can make a big difference in comfort and convenience. Backpacks are more flexible and often easier to store under the seat, but they put pressure on your back and shoulders, especially when walking long distances. Rolling bags reduce that strain, but can be bulky, harder to lift into overhead bins, and more closely scrutinized at the gate. The best strategy? Use a small, lightweight rolling bag as your carry-on and a backpack or crossbody bag as your personal item. That way you balance convenience, storage, and flexibility, and you stay within the rules. Not all overhead bins are the same size. One of the most surprising realities about air travel is that not all overhead bins are created equal. In fact, the size of the overhead compartments can vary significantly, not just between different airlines, but even between different aircraft within the same airline's fleet. This often becomes a frustrating discovery for travelers who thought they had everything figured out until their approved carry-on no longer fits. Here's what's going on behind the scenes. Large jets, like the Boeing 737 or Airbus A320, tend to have more generous bin space, especially newer models with upgraded cabin designs. These can usually accommodate standard 22-inch roller bags with ease. But when you're flying on a smaller aircraft like a regional jet, a commuter plane, or even a connection between smaller cities, the bins may be shallow, narrower, or even curved at odd angles. Some regional aircraft bins aren't even deep enough for a briefcase, let alone a proper carry-on. This is especially relevant for senior travelers flying on routes with smaller planes, which are common in regional or secondary airports. You might have boarded with that same bag countless times before with no issue, but suddenly you're being told at the gate that it has to be checked, not because your bag changed, but because the plane did. What makes this even trickier is that airlines don't always tell you in advance when you'll be flying on a smaller aircraft. You may book your ticket thinking it's a standard jet, only to find out later that your connection involves a 50-seater with limited overhead storage. Even within the same model of aircraft, bin sizes can differ depending on cabin layout or whether the plane has been retrofitted. So, what can you do? First, check your aircraft type when booking. Most booking sites or airline confirmations list the exact plane model. Look for something like Embraer 175 or CRJ 700. Then cross-reference it with a site like Seat Guru to see if the overhead bins are small or unusually shaped. If you know you'll be on a tight bin aircraft, plan to pack your essentials in a smaller personal item that will stay with you no matter what. Second, keep medications, electronics, and important documents in a small bag that can fit under the seat. That way, if your main carry-on is gate-checked, you won't be separated from anything crucial. Gate checking usually means your bag will be placed under the plane and returned at baggage claim, not immediately after the flight like some people assume. Lastly, consider using a soft-sided underseat carry-on if you fly frequently on smaller planes. These are designed to fit just about anywhere, even on the most limited aircraft, and can save you a ton of stress when space is tight. The bottom line, never assume that carry-on size means the same thing on every plane. Overhead bins are not standardized and airlines won't always warn you when space is limited. But with a little preparation and the right bag, you can stay one step ahead and travel with confidence, no matter the size of the aircraft. Airline staff have discretion, so be kind. This might be one of the most powerful travel truths that rarely gets mentioned. Airline employees, gate agents, flight attendants, and check-in staff have a great deal of discretion when it comes to enforcing rules. That includes carry-on size limits, overweight bag fees, early boarding, seat changes, and more. While airlines publish official policies, what happens at the airport often comes down to individual judgment calls. A gate agent might wave your slightly oversized carry-on through without a second glance, or they might ask you to test it in the dreaded sizer. They can allow you to bring both a carry-on and a bulky personal item on board, or insist that one gets gate-checked. It all depends on the agent's approach, the mood at the gate, the time crunch, and even how full the flight is. Here's the key. How you treat airline staff often influences how flexible they're willing to be with you. Senior travelers especially can benefit from a warm, polite, and appreciative tone. Starting your interaction with a smile, a friendly "good morning," or a simple "would you mind helping me with something?" can go a long way. These professionals deal with hundreds of stressed and often irritable passengers every day. When someone speaks calmly and kindly, it stands out and can completely change the dynamic. Let's say you're flying with a carry-on that might be just slightly above the size limit. If you approach the gate agent and say, "I know this bag might be a little tight, but I've flown with it several times before. If space is limited, I'm happy to check it if needed." You're giving them options and showing respect. 9 times out of 10, they'll appreciate your courtesy and do what they can to accommodate you. The same goes for flight attendants. If you're struggling to find bin space or need help lifting your bag, asking politely makes a big difference. Don't demand or act entitled, especially when things are chaotic. A gentle tone and some patience will often result in better service and greater understanding. In fact, many flight attendants and gate agents will tell you that they're much more likely to bend the rules or go the extra mile for a passenger who's respectful than one who's demanding. They might move you to a better seat, help you avoid a fee, or discreetly offer assistance with baggage if they sense you're overwhelmed or traveling alone. Also, remember that airline staff don't always enjoy enforcing the rules, but they're required to. If you're told your bag must be checked or that your seat can't be changed, it's not a personal attack. Remaining calm and gracious even when things don't go your way ensures that, at the very least, you're treated with dignity and empathy. And sometimes, kindness has surprising rewards. You might get a free upgrade, a complimentary drink, or a little extra patience during boarding, all because you chose to speak to someone like a fellow human being rather than a roadblock. So if there's one rule that's never printed on your boarding pass but always applies, it's this: be kind. It costs nothing, but often buys you comfort, support, and even a smoother journey through an otherwise stressful system. Carry-on-only travel can save you hours. Many travelers are now choosing to skip checked bags altogether and fly carry-on only, even for long trips. Why? It saves time at check-in, avoids long waits at baggage claim, and eliminates the risk of lost luggage. For seniors who want to reduce physical strain and minimize delays, this is a smart option, but it requires careful packing. Stick to versatile clothing, use packing cubes, and wear your bulkiest items on the plane. Carry-on-only travel isn't just efficient, it's freeing. You move faster, worry less, and always have your belongings close. Invest in a bag that's built for airlines' toughest rules. If you fly more than once a year, it's worth investing in a carry-on bag that's built to meet the strictest size standards, especially those of budget airlines. Look for bags specifically designed for underseat or international carry-on use. These tend to be slightly smaller, but fit on every airline, even the pickiest ones. And with smarter designs, you still get surprising capacity and organization. You'll save money in the long run by avoiding fees, and you'll travel with peace of mind, knowing your bag will always be accepted. When in doubt, ask ahead of time. If you're unsure about your bag size or what's allowed, call the airline before your flight. It's better to ask and be prepared than face a surprise fee or check-in delay. Airline representatives can give you exact dimensions, help you understand weight limits, and even note your concern on your reservation. That way, if there's a question at the gate, you have a record. Planning ahead isn't just a courtesy, it's a strategy. And for senior travelers, it can make your journey smoother, simpler, and much more enjoyable. So there you have it, the truth about carry-on rules and what actually works. It's not just about size, it's about knowing the system, staying flexible, and being prepared. When you pack smart, travel light, and plan ahead, you can avoid surprise fees, reduce stress, and fly with confidence. Which carry-on tricks have worked for you? Have you ever run into a bag rule you didn't expect? Share your story in the comments. You never know who you might help. And don't forget to subscribe. We share senior-focused travel tips every week to help you fly smarter, pack better, and enjoy every trip.